Hi everybody, welcome. My name is Lauren. Today I want to share a Charlotte Mason inspired history curriculum that I use this year in my homeschool for my third grader, my first grader, and my preschooler. So I say Charlotte Mason inspired because it's not strictly true, pure Charlotte Mason. However, I did take some of the theories and apply it to what I did for our history this year. So what I ended up doing is, because last summer I was on a mission. I was going to find the best and most perfect history curriculum out there, and I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. So I even bought a history curriculum. It was going to work for us. And then as I was going through it, I was like, oh no, this isn't going to work. And I actually ended up selling it. So I decided, you know what? I've done like make your own curriculum in the past, and it's kind of been a disaster. So I have a strong no make your own curriculum, Lauren, don't do that. And, but I actually went against that this year and was like, you know what? I can do it. Now I say it loosely for make your own curriculum. I did want a spine. So my goal is, let me have a spine of history so that I can make sure I'm going in, chronological, historical order of events. And from there, add on my own picture books and read alouds, things like that. So what I decided is I was going to use Abeka's Our America. Now, Abeka is obviously very traditional in its approach. And I got the second grade reader. So that way it was in between my first grade and my third grader. So it was very age appropriate. From there, like I said, I was going to use a spine. So from there, I just added in our own picture books. So whatever we were reading out of this book, I would just add on to there to kind of flesh it out and make it more rich and full circle. So this has worked really, really well for us. We have loved history so far. So let me show you exactly how I did that.
So we did not do history every day. I will say that as well. So how I would do this is I would just read some of the pages, and then whatever we were talking about, I would add a picture book to go along with. So an overview of this book, while I flip through, you can just see they do a few pages, and then they will do a comprehension check at the end. So we just do those orally. I don't have them right in the book. I only have one of these, so they don't get their own. We just do it out loud. And then the think about it questions, I have everybody answer this in their own words. They do have a few hands-on activities, and we actually did this one. This one was fun for them to do. It's making a Native American mat. It's kind of like the blankets that they had, and we stuck this in their history notebook. There are a few hands-on history things throughout this book. Not too many, so if that's not really your thing, then you're kind of, you don't have to do them, but there's only a few. You could always add your own if you're more adventurous. Okay. Another thing about this book, it is, again, intended for second graders. They are just giving a taste of history, kind of skimming the water, so to speak. They're not giving a lot of dates, a lot of detailed information. It is just brief history, just to give them a taste of what American history is, to give them an idea. So you can kind of see, I'll just kind of flip through here. There is a horn book. They gave a lesson of like what a horn book was, and then how you could make it. They thought that was fun as well. They give histories of all the major holidays, Independence Day, President's Day, Memorial Day, how they came about. I've actually learned a few things in this book, even though it's second grade. Something that I really like also, they do add these little touches to make it more engaging to the child. So they do America's songs. So Yankee Doodle, they do, of course, the Star Spangled Banner, America the Beautiful, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. They give a few different songs and the history of how those songs came to be, which I think is pretty fun too. I'm gonna be honest, after I read this story of the Star Spangled Banner and then they had to read it, I was almost tearing up. I think my girls caught on. They're like, Mom, are you okay? It's like, yeah, I'm okay. It's very patriotic. And so it will go all the way through up until current times. Okay, so that gives you kind of an idea. All right, so now how I made it a little bit more fun is it also has a history, science, and health activity book. Obviously, the science and health are different subjects, and I will show you what my third grader did. So these are just fun, very simple, and they just kind of sum up what we talked about. And it's a lot of different activities. You're not doing the same thing every time, and all my girls love it. They don't need a whole lot of hands-on and projects and stuff. Give them one of these fun little sheets. They're excited. So there's about 40 pages or so of activities. I would recommend this. These are only about, I want to say $7 or so a piece, and you would need one for every child, but it's worth it, especially if you end up doing either the science or the health. Even if not, I would still get it just for the history. Now let's talk about the picture books, the books that I feel like made history come more alive to my girls this year. First, I want to review American Pioneers and Patriots. And so how it works, it's a little different than any history curriculum I've ever seen. It gives a story of children, so either pioneers coming to America or pioneers traveling west, and it gives history through their perspective. So as you can see, it's all stories based on pioneers of the Ohio River, traveling by a covered wagon. So it allows your students, your children, to get an imagine how it would be for these kids who lived back during these historical times. So first, it gives a page, an overview of actual historical facts, and then from there it does 1 page of that per unit, and then it gives about 3 chapters every unit of a children's story. And then after that, it gives how people lived on sailing ships. It gives a unit review and then optional things to do. We cover these, and then I will ask them these questions. We haven't really done these things to do, but again, it's totally up to you. But my girls really loved it. They ask for this. They'll say, are we reading some stories from that book with the kids? That's how they describe it. And so we did not read all of these because we just, for time's sake, I didn't. But I thought that this was a really fun addition to our history. And again, it will only go up until, I think it covers Abraham Lincoln in westward expansion. So it's not going to cover all of American history, but this was a fun addition. We liked this one. All right, so that is American Pioneers and Patriots, just a little add-on. So first we have, for our fiction books, we have The Legend of the Indian Paintbrush. This is a fictional story. This is a myth, a legend passed down from Native Americans from different generations, and my daughters know that this is not real. It's about a little boy and how he created flowers. And so it was just to show, the reason I chose this is just to show my girls how just a different side of Native American folklore, or folklore in general, coming from a Native American's perspective. Next we have we did a unit study on George Washington. I spent a little bit of time on this. We took about a week or two just to go over, just read more about him. And I had happened to collect several books about him. So I just wanted to dive in. And so how I went about purchasing these books instead of just getting them from the library. This past summer, our library was still closed. And so it was kind of difficult to obtain books just by having to look them up individually and then check them out. And sometimes they were available, but then sometimes not. And it would take weeks to get books in. Anyway, it ended up being more cost effective and easier for me just to have these books that I just bought. So how I went about buying these books is I would go on eBay and I would just type in book lots, children's book lots, or history book lots for children, something along those lines. But the point is that I bought the book in a lot. So when I bought 8 or 10 altogether, I would try to get a really good deal on it. I wouldn't pay any more than $1.50 or $2 per book at most. And this just allowed me to collect several different types of books on many different historical characters that we have been learning about this year. And I don't mind having them on hand instead of having to return them to the library. Having these on hand, will I keep them forever? No, I can always resell them when my kids are older. So I don't think it's a huge investment or anything like that. So this worked out really well for us this particular year. Now I have Ben Franklin. So these a picture book by Ben Franklin. I just had one from George Washington by David Adler. We like these because they just give a brief biography of the character that you are discussing. So they're just going to go through their life, and it's only going to be, about 20 pages or so. Next, we have these readers, and my girls like these because it takes the character and it tells a specific event that happened in their life. As you can see, these are very colorful, full of pictures, and that was my whole goal this year, was just to keep history fun and engaging to them and light, and just to give an idea of who these people are. And so I feel like we've accomplished that so far. And then here is one of when Ben Franklin was a boy. So I try to get a variety of books. And then there's quite a few of these characters when they were children as well. So it just kind of brings a different perspective to it. So we have these if you grew up with, or if you traveled on, or if you were alive when series, and I have not read them formally with my girls in school because they are about 60 pages or so, and it takes a little bit longer. But I did want to point these out because my oldest, my third grader, I actually have them more for her. I have probably 5 or 6 of these, and it's just interesting. So like, what kind of house would you live in if you grew up with Abraham Lincoln? Where would you go to school? What would you do with the money you earned? Would you go to school? That type of question. And I just like these because it has the child thinking outside of their time frame and when they're growing up, and it just gives them a different perspective rather than just a biography. So how would you travel? Things like that. So my daughter will read these. Again, she is in 3rd grade. She'll sit down and she will read one of these in one sitting. It doesn't take her very long at all. And I just like to give these to her for some extra practice, not practice, but just so that she can have some extra depth. So this one is about the Underground Railroad. She has read this one as well, and the Who Was books. She really loves the Who Was books. But some examples of if you traveled on the Underground Railroad, why would you run away? Could you buy yourself? Since you're a slave, could you buy yourself? What dangers did you face? Where was the safest place to go? How did you hear about Canada? Did anyone help the owners, like the slave owners? Did anybody help them? What else? We have, was everybody in the North against slavery?
How did people hear about the Underground Railroad? So I just like to incorporate those. And then lastly, we have Henry's Freedom Box. Me and my daughters really, really loved this book. It is beautiful. It's beautifully illustrated. It's beautifully written. It is a sad book. I will say that it is very sad. It has some hope at the end, which is good, but we really loved reading about Henry's Freedom Box. It was a good one. And my daughter actually read more about him in one of her Who Was books as well, about the Underground Railroad. Now we are focusing on immigration. So I have this book, Coming to America. It's by Betsy Maestro. She's written several other books about early America. And so we're incorporating this. It starts all the way with Native Americans, goes to colonial times. However, since we've already spent a lot of time on that, I'm not really going to read that part of the book. I'm going to pick up around the 1800s. Ellis Island, that type, and then read forward till modern times. So that's how we're going to do this book. And then The Long Way to a New Land. This is a short chapter book. It's fiction. It is only about 4 chapters, so it should only take us about 2 days to read and go through. Hopefully you found this a little bit helpful. We really liked it. It's worked really well for us so far this year. I would recommend going with this approach if you have little kids and you just haven't found anything that works for you. You don't necessarily have to get, a Becca's History or anything. I just recommend branching out and trying to make things your own to fit your needs. And don't overly complicate it, within reason. Don't stress yourself out too much. We want to make sure we're still good to function. But I really like this. This worked well for us. My goal was accomplished, which was I wanted to just introduce history, American history, to my children, 1st grade, 3rd grade, preschool. They're still little. So I wanted their first taste of history to be something that was fun and light and engaging for them. And yes, history is not always fun. Of course, there's tragedy and things like that. However, I did want to just keep it age appropriate. I heard this a few years ago, and I really try to keep this in the back of my mind when thinking of things like history and science, especially for these young kids, children this age, is that you want to keep it fun as possible. It may not be their favorite subject, but as fun and age appropriate and engaging for them as it can be, because if their first taste of history and science is that it's boring and dry, they're going to carry that notion with them when they get into their older grades and it's more serious and they have to dive deeper into these topics. So if they have a funny, that they're left with, oh, this was really interesting and fun, then when they get older, they're going to have a much better probability of actually enjoying those subjects rather than dreading them, right? And that's what we really want to accomplish in homeschool. So hopefully you found this video helpful. I would love to hear if you like any specific history program, or if you've done anything like this to just make it your own. Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, you take care, have a great day, and I will see you really soon.